Hey everyone, so today we're going to be making some roasted pumpkin seeds. Now it's just past Halloween and lots of people might have uncut or uncarved pumpkins still sitting around. Plus you can find them right now super inexpensive at almost any store or any organization that was selling pumpkins. You can get them really cheap now, pumpkin farms and pumpkin patches as well if they have any left, which most will, and they'll sell them at a great discount after Halloween. Get some pumpkins, you can make pumpkin pie, make pumpkin seeds, really awesome stuff. So I cut out this one and carved it up and kept all the seeds from it, and we're going to be making roasted pumpkin seeds from it. And then I have this one that I'm probably going to make a pumpkin pie in the next few days, and I'll put that on my Earthling Cooks channel. I'll link that channel in the description. So real simple here. I already carved this pumpkin yesterday, a couple days ago now, and I saved all the pulp and seeds. And let's go ahead and get separating the seeds and get cooking the pumpkin seeds. So you can easily remove the pumpkin seeds from the pulp by just filling up a bowl, or I'm just using a pan here, but a big bowl, and put water in it. And this is just full of pulp and seeds. And I'm just throwing the seeds over here. But the seeds float and the pulp will go down. So you can pretty much pick up mostly all seeds, and then we'll throw them all in here, and then I'll rewash them in here to get all the extra stuff off. But this makes getting the seeds separated really easy. Now that my pumpkin seeds are all separated from the pulp, I'm going to throw them in a saltwater bath and cook them for just a few minutes in salt water. And the reason being is if you just season the outside, they'll turn out great. But if you season this water and boil them for a few minutes before roasting them, then that salt will get all inside, and it'll, the salt flavor will be throughout. So you get a nice, stronger salt flavor throughout. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just have some Himalayan sea salt, and I'm just using it because it has a big opening at the top. So I can just simply pour in a good amount. You don't want too much, it's too crazy, but a good amount. And then I'm going to bring this to the stove. And I'm just going to turn on my cooktop to high and cook it until it starts boiling, and then we'll see the next step. Alright, so it's on high, and I just gotta wait a bit now. Stir it around a little bit to get that salt mixed up as it comes to a boil, so it's not just sitting on the bottom. As it heats up, it's going to dissolve really quick though. And pretty much just now, again like I said, we're going to let it sit till it starts boiling, and then we'll let it simmer for just a minute or two. It just started boiling here, as you can see. Now you don't have to wait for a huge, crazy, rumbling boil. It's just starting to boil now, and in a second I'm going to turn it down from 10, where I was going to boil. I'm going to turn it down to about 2, and just let it cook for another couple minutes. All we're doing is trying to get that flavor infused. We're not trying to actually cook these fully or anything. Now I just added salt during this step, and I'm just going to do salt on these anyways, but there's going to be another seasoning step. And I prefer to just do salt this way, and then if you're going to add any other seasonings, add them on later. But it's up to you. Some people prefer to add some seasoning other than salt to this water as well to get it mixed in and absorbed a little bit. So you can do this with just salt, or you could use salt and other seasonings that you prefer, or you could skip this step completely and just season the outside. So I know it's hard for you to probably tell it's boiling, but as you can see there, it is starting to boil. So now I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm just going to turn this down to around 2. And now I'm just going to let this cook for another 1 to 2 minutes. Very short amount of time, and I'll stir it a little bit during these last couple minutes. Alright, I've let it simmer for 2 minutes, and now I've turned off my heat. And now our next step is going to be to drain and strain this. So I'm going to bring it over and just pour it into a strainer here. And we're going to want this to be pretty dry before our next step. We don't want to work with it when it's super wet. So you can use a strainer or something and just let it sit in your sink for a while. It'll dry out, and just come back in a little bit. Ooh, that's fogging up the camera. I'm going to actually speed this up a little bit in a second, but let me do this other step here. So now I had my hot pan, and it's off the heat. It's still hot, and I'm going to need butter for my next step that's melted. So I have a frozen half stick of butter, and hopefully this pan will be hot enough to fully melt that down. If it was in the fridge, it definitely would. So you're going to want to go ahead and get a half stick or a stick, depending how much pumpkin seeds you have. I have pumpkin seeds from 2 pumpkins, but we were not very perfect about getting every seed out, so it's more like a pumpkin and a half worth of seeds. So I'm using about a half stick of butter. And in the next step, when we add seasonings, we're going to toss it with the butter and some more salt. And that's when you can also add in any other seasonings that you want, dry seasonings for the outside. So to expedite this process for me, I'm going to cheat. And everyone probably doesn't have a fan in their kitchen, but I'm going to cheat and just turn on this fan, and that should get those dried out a lot quicker so we can go on to the next step in this video. We're at the last step now. We have my butter, and I actually went ahead and added a second half stick of butter because it didn't look like quite enough liquid when I just melted on the first half stick. And we're going to restrain this, so it's okay if there's a little extra butter. If you do feel like you don't have enough liquid, another thing you can use is olive oil, or you can use olive oil fully instead of butter, or mix them together, however you like. Before we go ahead and season these, just going to go over to the stove here, and let's get that going at 350. Okay, it's time to season. So we have our butter here that I just showed, and as I said, I'm just doing salt. So I have a mixture of just some sea salt grinder that I grinded on its finest setting, and then just some more of this pink Himalayan salt. And it's a good amount of salt. You can add as much as you want. It's a good amount, but I don't think it's too crazy the amount I used. I didn't actually measure anything. You can just kind of go by ear here. If you want it super salty, you can. If you want a little less, a little less. And I'm just going to pour this into my butter. Now, if you use other seasonings, just go ahead and mix them and put them in your butter here too, whatever seasonings you like. So I'm going to put that in. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil for the taste of that. Go ahead and mix this up. And now all we need to do is throw our seeds into here. And then we're going to throw the strainer back in the sink because we're going to need to strain again. So now we're just going to go ahead and thoroughly mix up our seeds. And as I said, this coated them plenty. I could have probably used even less butter and oil, but we're going to strain it. So doesn't matter how much you use really. If you use a little too much, it's okay because we're going to be straining it after this. And you just need to stir it a little bit. It's probably done now. I just want to get it all mixed around so the salt and everything is mixed up pretty evenly. So now we'll go ahead and throw this into our strainer. And then I'm just going to give this a couple minutes to strain, and I'm going to kind of shake it around a little bit, try to get the butter and oil to strain through there in the sink a little bit. And then we'll be back to finish the last step. Okay, not quite the last step, but we're getting there. As you can see, lots of the oil and the butter I got to shake out there. And now we just get our pan, and we're just going to go ahead and get our seeds in our pan here. And you want them to be as little layers as possible. I mean, ideally, you get them all spread out, you know, in one level. But I find that's kind of hard to do, especially if you're making a whole lot of these. So what I do is I get them spread out so they're pretty equal like this. And then what I'm going to do after that is while they're cooking, I'm just going to stir them every like 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to cook for about a half an hour at 350, depending on how brown they turn. You want them to get a nice golden brown. So instead of making it really hard to make it a flat level, I just stir every 5 to 10 minutes as they're cooking, and it works perfect. So I'm waiting for the oven to finish preheating, and then we'll throw them in to get them start to roast. And now into the oven. And I'll set my timer for 30 minutes, but come back every 5 to 10 and give it a little stir. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. And 10 minutes is usually when I stir the first time because they're not going to overcook in the first 10 minutes. Hopefully you guys can see this. My oven light recently went off. I got to get a new oven light. So just give them a quick stir. Try to get all the corners and just stir them around. I could see some are gaining a little bit of color. See it better in the light, but Not very much yet, but there are some gaining a little color. Go ahead and just put it back in. And now we'll stir about every 5 minutes for the remaining 20 minutes. It has now been 30 minutes and I've been stirring these up every 5 minutes. And as you can see, we got a nice browning color on there. Let me go ahead and get them out and bring them up to the counter and we'll take a look at them. And here's our final product. Super simple to make. The hardest thing is getting the pumpkin seeds out. But what's nice is if you do this with pumpkins that you buy after Halloween or ones that you haven't carved, it's a lot easier to take the seeds out when you're not pulling them out of the top where you just cut a little hole. You can just cut the pumpkins in half and it's super simple to get them out. So listen to these as I pick them up and drop them. You can hear that nice crunchiness to them. So they're probably pretty hot. I just got them out. I'm just transferring them to this bowl. And then I'll go ahead and give one a taste. Actually, let me run out a towel here and just throw a couple out there to cool down a little bit. But I can taste in a second. Now, like I said earlier, you can do anything with these. They're kind of like peanuts. You can season them any way you want. I want to learn, and I've never done it before, but I want to learn like a honey nut. Kind of do a sweet one. And then there's I often get the pretzels or other nuts that are kind of spicy. So I'd like to learn some of those recipes. And if you know or you want to try out some stuff, go ahead. But if you don't and you just want to do something simple, salt always works just great too. See if I can just throw these last ones in here. This pan's still super hot. Alright, so I have a pumpkin, pretty darn good amount of pumpkin seeds. If you were to buy a pack of seeds or nuts in the store, that would probably be like, I don't know, $8 worth or something if you got those even little individual packs for $1. So you get a pretty darn good amount. And you can eat the shells. Some people don't eat the shells, some people do when they're roasted correctly and they're nice and crisp. The shells are real nice and easy to eat. So let's go ahead and try one. They're great. It's just a nice salty seasoning, not overpowering. There's not like salt all over them. I don't know if my camera's going to focus up close here. But there's not like salt like just visibly all over them. But they have a very nice salty taste. Very good. Alright guys, so head out to the store. If you see pumpkins somewhere, head to a pumpkin patch. They'll still be open, I'm sure, for another week or two. Get yourself some cheap pumpkins. Make some pumpkin seeds. And hopefully I'll have a video up soon on a pumpkin pie. So, happy Halloween even though I'm late, and we'll see y'all later.